Welcome to Defining Ethics in Business Ethics. In this lecture, I'll explore the moral principles that shape how individuals behave and how organizations make decisions. Ethics provides a foundation for evaluating what is right, responsible, and fair, especially in complex business environments. We'll connect these ideas to the broader concepts that influence modern organizations, including the choices leaders make, the responsibilities businesses carry, and the standards that guide professional conduct. The central focus is how ethical principles translate into everyday business decisions. Ethics gives us a way to think carefully about what is right, fair, and just. It does more than describe how people behave. It evaluates behavior against moral standards and asks us to consider why an action should be considered acceptable. Normative ethics focuses on what people ought to do and what makes an action morally right. Applied ethics takes those broader principles and examines how they guide decisions in real-world situations, where values in conflict and the best course of action may not be immediately obvious. Ethical thinking has developed through several major stages. In ancient Greece, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle focus on virtue and on what it means to live a good life. During the Enlightenment, ethical theories became more systematic. Kant emphasized duties and principles, while Bentham evaluated actions by their consequences and overall usefulness. In the modern era, ethics expanded beyond individual behavior to address institutions, corporations, and global society. The central shift is from asking how a person should live to examining how entire systems should act responsibly. Ethical frameworks give us different lenses for thinking through difficult decisions. Utilitarianism asks which choice creates the greatest overall good, focusing on consequences and the number of people affected. Deontology takes a different approach, emphasizing duties, rules, and actions that are right or wrong regardless of the outcome. Virtue ethics focuses on the character we develop, such as honesty, courage, and fairness. Finally, rights-based ethics reminds us that every person has fundamental rights that must be respected, even when doing so makes a decision more complicated. Business ethics is the application of moral principles to commercial activity. In practical terms, it helps us determine what behavior is acceptable when people and organizations make business decisions. It applies across the entire commercial landscape, not just in moments of crisis, that include how a company hires and treats employees, how honestly it reports financial information, how responsibly it markets products, and how it manages its environmental impact. Together, these expectations shape trust, accountability, and the way business affects both its stakeholders and the broader community. Business ethics matters because integrity is more than a moral ideal. It is a strategic advantage. When companies act honestly and responsibly, they build trust with customers, employees, investors, and business partners. That trust can strengthen reputation, support long-term relationships, and help organizations perform consistently over time. The slide highlights a 23% higher profitability rate over 10 years for ethically recognized companies compared with industry peers. The broader message is clear. Doing the right thing is not separate from business success. It can be an important foundation for sustainable performance. This slide draws an important distinction between what is legal and what is ethical. A common misconception is that if an action is permitted by law, it must also be right. But laws generally establish only minimum standards. Ethical leadership asks a broader question. Is this right? That means considering fairness, responsibility, and the impact on others, even when no regulation requires it. This distinction matters because society's expectations can evolve faster than legislation. So responsible businesses must go beyond mere compliance and aim for higher standards of conduct. Business ethics operates across four connected levels. At the societal level, ethical expectations reflect how communities define responsible conduct. The industry level considers the standards and practices shared across a particular field. Within an organization, ethics shapes policies, culture, and everyday decisions. Finally, the individual level focuses on the choices each employee makes. Ethical responsibility exists at every level, from personal actions to the broader standards that guide industries and society. Together, These levels show that ethical behavior is not the responsibility of one person or one department alone. This slide highlights 4 key domains of business ethics. Corporate governance means leaders remain accountable to both shareholders and stakeholders through transparent, honest oversight. Fair trade and competition require organizations to compete on merit without price fixing, deceptive advertising, or other anti-competitive behavior. Environmental responsibility extends ethics beyond the organization, emphasizing sustainable operations and minimizing ecological harm. Finally, workplace ethics means protecting fairness, dignity, diversity, and safety for everyone. Together, these domains show that ethical business conduct applies to leadership, markets, the environment, and the people within the organization. Building an ethical business culture requires more than publishing a code of conduct. I need to establish clear values, lead by example, provide ongoing training, and consistently enforce standards while recognizing ethical behavior. An ethical culture does not emerge by accident. It requires intentional, sustained leadership at every level. That starts with tone at the top, because employees follow the standards leaders demonstrate. It also depends on psychological safety. People must feel confident raising concerns, asking questions, and reporting misconduct without fear of retaliation. The key takeaway is that ethics provide the moral foundation for deciding what is right, fair, and just. Business ethics applies that foundation to everyday commercial choices and responsibilities. Legal compliance is only the floor. Sustained ethical behavior depends on embedding shared values throughout the organization's culture.